Well, we've got an interesting development coming in now on that story about the Army's controversial movements that spooked the government. 24 hours ago, the Army's former Director General of Military Operations made public the government's sense of alarm over that movement. Now, the Air Force Chief, the former Air Force Chief, has been drawn into this controversy with statements of his own. Former retired Air Chief Marshal NAK Browne, retired less than 2 months ago, was serving as the Chief of the Air Force in January 2012. That's the time when this episode took place. In an explosive 3-point contradiction to the Army's explanation of those troop movements, the Air Chief has said that the movement of that para-commandos unit was actually scheduled for a month later. He also said that the movement had nothing to do with the Air Force, nor was it consulted. All 3 points directly contradict the Army's stand. This is the first time that the recently retired Air Chief has spoken out about this controversial subject. This is his first official statement on record about the facts. In other words, the Army, he says, may not be putting out a full or accurate picture, and it also has is cause for concern because it throws up a possibility that the two chiefs were not in contact with each other on a crucial matter of moving these elite units. Jugal Purohit joins us from the newsroom for more on this story. Jugal, on the surface it may seem that an Army unit being moved really and for an exercise doesn't need the consultation with the Air Chief. So help viewers understand how these two services are linked on this story.
Well, Pierre, as far as this single issue is concerned, what we are aware of is that this particular movement of the para-commandos from Agra was taking place to actually go and get married, and in military terms it means to get integrated and to actually engage with the recently acquired C-130J Hercules aircraft of the Indian Air Force. These are aircrafts which are actually tasked to carry special forces like the para-commandos, and the entire aim of the exercise, if one is to just take the Army's version on record, is to essentially ensure that we have a sense of just how long it takes to move these troops, how fast they can actually integrate and get ready for their mission. It was this exercise which was being carried out, but what the Air Chief's statement now, the former Air Chief's statement now, actually indicates is that this exercise for which these para-commandos were being moved was actually not even going to take place. And if it is so indeed, we've been trying to speak to Air Chief Marshal Browne, but he is in some commitments as of now, we understand. If this statement is indeed true, what it essentially means is that the Army troops were moving perhaps for nowhere. And if at all they were moving in that direction, then the question is, why were they moving towards, what were they moving, and on whose orders were they moving? Because essentially the Army's statement that these para-commandos were moving essentially towards the Hindon Air Base where the C-130Js were placed at that time is now being nullified by what the former Air Chief has said, and it only brings the spotlight back onto the Army's own activities at a time when things were quite sensitive. General V.K. Singh was approaching the Supreme Court on the issue of his date of birth and age controversy. So just why was this Army unit moving is something that the Army will have to explain, or rather General V.K. Singh will have to explain, because this statement by the former Air Chief has actually nullified all of that the Army was saying was maintaining towards its defense, Pierre.
An important statement there from the Air Chief. Jugal Purohit, many thanks for bringing that perspective for our viewers to help them understand exactly why the Air Chief has an important point to make over there. We're going to keep getting you developments. Remember, we're going to try and reach out to the Air Chief himself for more clarity on that statement.